Expensive shoes, a luxury watch, and a brand new car can make someone look wealthy, even while every one of those purchases is still being paid off in monthly installments. Today, people often notice the logo first, while the monthly bill that follows stays completely out of sight. The tighter someone's finances become, the stronger the temptation can be to appear successful anyway. Why would someone willingly borrow money to buy something they cannot comfortably afford today? Is this really about money, or is it connected to feeling secure, respected, and accepted by other people? Many financial choices that seem irrational on the surface are driven by emotions that feel completely reasonable in the moment. Welcome to The Margin, where we examine the financial decisions people make instead of simply talking about making more money. Today we examine the psychology behind consumer debt, status symbols, and a concept known as the respect paradox. From childhood, we learn to recognize status through symbols like uniforms, houses, cars, and shoe brands, even without anyone directly teaching us that social language. As adults, that same language simply becomes credit cards, luxury apartments, the newest gadgets, and vacations shared on social media. Looking successful is often cheaper to display today than building real wealth over many years. Many people gradually confuse the appearance of wealth with the slower process of actually building it. Social media speeds up this illusion by showing other people's finished highlights while we compare them with our everyday struggles. The more perfect those lives appear, the easier it becomes to believe we also need to look successful, even when expensive things are not truly owned. Over time, buying things becomes less about usefulness and more about sending a message about who we are. Psychologists describe this behavior as status signaling, where objects speak for us because recognition is what we actually want. The biggest weakness of status symbols is that their value depends on other people's opinions instead of our own financial reality. Once self-worth begins depending on other people's judgment, financial decisions gradually stop following logic and start following fear. Most people do not wake up planning to fall into debt. They simply want to feel accepted, respected, or not left behind. Social approval feels rewarding almost immediately, while watching long-term investments grow requires far more patience. The human brain enjoys instant rewards, making a new purchase feel exciting while building assets feels almost invisible. Credit cards can feel like a shortcut to confidence because the emotional reward comes now while the bill arrives later. Without noticing, debt can slowly become less about money and more about protecting the identity we want others to see. As the pressure to appear successful grows, spending money that is not yet yours becomes increasingly difficult to resist. Debt creates stress, stress increases the search for comfort, and temporary comfort often leads to another purchase. The items bought to appear successful can quietly make financial stability more fragile through growing monthly obligations. The real problem is not the luxury item itself, but the moment self-worth begins to come with monthly payments. Escaping this cycle begins with recognizing why people fear being seen as not enough more than they fear the debt itself. Everyone wants to be respected, but building genuine respect is very different from buying symbols that only resemble it. Every purchase made for someone else's approval carries two prices: the item itself and the opportunity to build long-term assets instead. The second cost feels much larger because most people never calculate the investments they gave up while chasing a lifestyle. This pattern often appears after a raise, when car payments, new gadgets, and credit card bills arrive before savings can grow. Income increases, yet daily life still feels financially tight because the cost of maintaining an image rises alongside it. Economists call this lifestyle inflation, although the real inflation often happens inside growing social expectations instead of basic needs. People gradually feel they must match the standards around them, even as those standards keep shifting with every new trend. Eventually, purchases become less about improving everyday life and more about appearing successful to other people. As the cost of maintaining an image grows higher, the opportunity to build long-term financial freedom quietly becomes smaller. It all begins with the simple belief that other people's approval matters more than feeling financially secure yourself. This brings us to the central idea of this video, a concept I call the respect paradox. The paradox is simple. The harder someone tries to look successful, the more obvious that effort often becomes to other people. By contrast, people with real financial security usually spend more time building their lives than displaying them. Many self-made millionaires are known for staying in the same home, driving modest cars, and rarely buying things just to impress others. It is not because they cannot afford more, but because every dollar left unspent today can continue working over a longer time horizon. They choose comfort over admiration and freedom over applause. Meanwhile, people searching for validation often keep buying new symbols because public attention always fades. The item that looks special today often becomes ordinary just a few months later, and the race never really ends. The respect paradox reminds us that respect grows from character, competence, and quiet confidence rather than expensive logos. People who are genuinely successful are usually paying closer attention to long-term decisions than to whoever owns the most expensive brand. Getting out of this trap does not begin by changing how much money is in your wallet, but by changing what success means inside your mind. As long as success means looking wealthy, you will keep chasing something that never really ends. But if success means having choices in life, every financial decision begins to change. Before buying something, ask yourself whether it truly improves your quality of life or only improves your image for a few minutes. That simple question often interrupts an impulse purchase because many wants begin with social pressure instead of personal need. Imagine that no one would ever see the item you want to buy and ask yourself whether you would still choose it. If the answer is no, then perhaps the purchase is not really about the product, but about wanting acceptance from other people. Every time you choose to save, invest, or pay debt faster, you are exchanging today's money for greater financial freedom later. Financial security cannot be displayed like a luxury item, yet it quietly changes how you sleep, face the future, and respond to social pressure. Real luxury is not a life that impresses other people, but a life that is no longer controlled by their opinions. After recognizing the difference between validation and security, another reality becomes visible because lasting wealth often grows quietly where nobody is looking. After recognizing the trap of social validation, the next question naturally appears: if not chasing an impressive image, then what are people actually chasing? The answer is not owning more wealth but having greater freedom over everyday life. It means being able to decline work that drains you and facing emergencies without immediately worrying about monthly loan payments. That kind of freedom does not come from the logo on your clothes, but from assets quietly growing month after month. Assets rarely attract attention, yet they quietly purchase more of your time little by little. Every investment that grows increases independence, while every consumer debt moves life closer to obligation. That is why people with substantial wealth often appear surprisingly ordinary because they have nothing left to prove. While many people polish their financial appearance, others quietly strengthen their financial foundation over the years. Real wealth usually grows from ordinary decisions repeated consistently over a long time instead of dramatic moments. Perhaps the least discussed difference is that some people spend money on their future while many others remain focused on buying an impressive image. Maybe we've been chasing respect the wrong way, expecting other people to change how they see us instead of changing how we see ourselves. When your self-worth depends on your garage or clothing brands, you're handing control of your life to other people's opinions, and that comes at a high cost. When your self-worth comes from discipline, character, and managing money well, trends and social pressure lose much of their influence. Confidence built on financial security feels quieter because it doesn't need an audience to prove it exists. Other people may never know how many assets you own, but you'll notice the difference when bills arrive without bringing fear. That's what real luxury looks like, not an expensive appearance, but a life that isn't controlled by financial anxiety. The respect paradox suggests that respect cannot be purchased, and instead grows through the decisions you make even when nobody is watching. When you stop buying validation, you begin spending your resources on time, peace, and the freedom to choose your own direction. In the end, the wealthiest people are not always the ones who look the most successful, but the ones who no longer depend on anyone's approval to feel enough. Freedom carries more value than appearances, and lasting peace is more valuable than the image of luxury. If there is one idea worth taking away from this video, it is this: don't let your future become the price you pay for an impression that only lasts a few minutes. Luxury items may attract attention, but attention has never paid bills or purchased financial freedom. Every small decision you make today shapes your life years from now, so choose what strengthens the foundation instead of improving the appearance. Hopefully, after this video, you will no longer judge wealth by what someone wears, but by how much control they have over their own life. If you enjoy conversations like this, consider subscribing, because The Margin explores money as more than numbers, but as a reflection of modern thinking and everyday life. Hopefully, every video on this channel helps you make calmer, more rational, and more freeing financial decisions without chasing the image of looking rich. Have you ever felt pressured to buy something you could not yet afford just to look successful or fit in, and what eventually changed your view of money? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video here on The Margin.